Hello folks, Space Tech here, and welcome to a quick video covering the highlights from the most recent Star Citizen Live, which was an interview with the vehicle concept team. We got some fresh looks at the new Pioneer, as well as an introduction to 3 brand new ships, a Kruger ship and 2 RSI ships. First off was the vertical slices of the interior of the Pioneer. It's worth noting here that the idea behind these designs isn't actually finishing the 3D work, but rather giving guidelines to the production artists, who will then bring it to the final art stage. They pick out the most unique and interesting parts of these ships and then flesh them out so that the 3D artist will then have a reference to use when actually completing the design. The very first slide we got was of the cargo and crafting section of the Pioneer. To the right here, we have what was explained to be the cargo section in the initial presentation of the Pioneer, with the giant cargo lift in red at the very end of the hallway. A little different than the concept we saw at CitCon is the addition of a catwalk or upper floor. There is a ladder here to get onto the catwalk, and I'm not sure if this ends up attaching to an entirely new floor of the ship, but I will say that an additional passageway is always welcome on larger ships like this one. CIG goes on to specifically call out all the different colors being used here. Cargo and walking areas are painted in blue to show that they are largely safe and static areas, whereas the giant moving cargo lift is painted in a bright red-orange. We also see perforations along the floor of the cargo deck to denote where the walkway ends and the cargo grid begins. I'm sure anyone who has stuffed a Zeus CL can appreciate those lines. There is also some brief mention here of these cargo grids being maglev. The last section of the Pioneer we saw was the crafting area in yellow. Here we see the 4 crafting stations we originally saw in the concept at CitCon. These will bring so much versatility to the Pioneer, allowing it to craft items without first having to build a fabricator. In my original video covering this ship, I mentioned my hope that these fabricators would go beyond being able to make guns and armor and would actually be able to craft size 2 components to match with the entire size 2 ships that can be made in the main fabrication room of the Pioneer. Seeing the sheer amount of space dedicated around these machines really does give me hope that CIG is expecting you to be able to craft things large enough to require a tractor beam to move them around. While these colors do seem intense, we should keep in mind here that this is only the concept phase, and exploration of design is the entire point. They also mention that they are taking cues from feedback that they've received in the past, and ensuring that it is harder to get lost in these massive ships. A way they do that is by making each area feel uniquely identifiable. What's really exciting about these vertical slices is that they will not only inform the design language of the Pioneer, but likely the style and design of all consolidated Outland ships going forward. Next up were 3 brand new concept ships that have yet to be announced. Again, keep in mind these are still an early concept. What that means is that almost anything can change from what we're seeing now to the final product, but the intention for the role of these ships seems to have been approved. So while we may not see this exact RSI Salvage starter ship, we know the intention is to create one of some sort. So what are these new concept ships? The first is the quote, Heavy Strike Fighter, which is based on the RSI Mantis. To be clear, this is not a variant, but rather a brand new ship just based on the Mantis platform or chassis. This is similar to the Atlas platform with the Ballista or Centurion, and I think a good comparison would also be the Prospector and the Fortune. I personally love the RSI Mantis' design style, and it brings a lot of flash in a relatively small body. As an interdiction ship, I just didn't get much use out of it, similar to Jared. I'm expecting the fighter to likely end up in the medium fighter category considering the agility and size of the Mantis, but if it does end up as a heavy fighter, I'll be curious to see if they have to make it grow. This ship is in active development, but there were no actual images shared. Continuing the RSI family is the next concept ship, a starter RSI Salvager. They explicitly state that this ship is going to be smaller than the Vulture and that you would upgrade from it to the Fortune. This is a first for Star Citizen in that if we do see the ship around the $60 to $70 starter ship amount, it would be the very first true starter that could do a specialized game loop like Salvage instead of only focusing on general gameplay. They explicitly call out the fact that you would start out the game with this ship, which is a really exciting and novel idea. I wonder if they would refrain from giving it guns of any kind or maybe just a tiny one to help balance it against the other starters. For this ship, we saw 3 different designs. The first is one that looks very reminiscent to a Mantis. We can see the little emitters on the front similar to the ones of the Vulture for disintegration, but I'm not quite sure where they would put the salvage heads on this ship. Wherever they do end up putting them, I can't help but feel like the round, bulky shape would break up the flow and sleek design of this ship. The second design is one that looks far more inspired by the Zeus. Here, the front arms stick out further and almost make me hope that we would get some sort of bespoke salvage heads for this ship, which maybe couldn't be customized or upgraded, and would be considered size 1. It would make sense balance-wise as well, considering the fact that you would want to upgrade to a Fortune, which itself only has one size 2 scraper. As a fan of triangle-shaped ships, this one is my favorite. The very last design is more of a beetle-shaped ship with room at the back to hold a little cargo. Personally, this is my least favorite. I feel as though the other two ships do a great job of feeling fresh while still belonging to RSI. It's not that I don't like this design, but I really hope that a different one is selected. The very last ship that was revealed to us is the new light fighter from Kruger Intergalactic. As a huge fan of the P-52 and P-72 snub ships, I will say I absolutely love the idea of a new Kruger ship. Out of all the designs we can see being concepted here, I personally loved A, D, and E the most. We don't really have any more details about this ship, but I will say I really hope this ship can dock in a bespoke manner to a mothership as well. I know the odds of it happening are basically zero, considering all the extra work that goes into it that could only ever be used with one very large ship, and really for not much extra gain. That being said, the docking of the Kruger snubs will forever be some of the coolest interactions I have ever had in a video game. So tell me, which one of the Krugers do you like the most? Are you excited for starter ships to have specialization, or do you think it could create some issues? Finally, how excited are you for the amazing new look on the Pioneer? Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Take care, and see you in the next one.